It's used as a gang injunction to restrict the actions of alleged gang members in a geographically defined safety zone. Right, so it's a civil injunction used to restrict the activities and actions of a group of alleged gang members in a geographically defined area. So the area that in the Western Addition, many of you here are very familiar with, I'm becoming more familiar with, are the areas that belong to the church, so to speak, of Chopper City and Knockout Posse, right, and Eddie Rock. Right, so we talk about safety zones. This is of these distinct areas, right, and then gangs, or alleged gang members within these areas. So what did gang injunctions do? They allow local law enforcement to prevent alleged gang members from engaging in unlawful and otherwise lawful activities. And this was also another important distinction that came up last week. So it does prevent alleged gang members from committing the sort of crimes that it's against the law for all of us to commit, right? So none of us can legally sell drugs, right, loiter, trespass, right, and that's on there too. But there are also a number of otherwise lawful activities, walking with certain people, wearing certain clothes, making certain hand gestures that are violations of the gang injunctions within those zones. And so if you are named on the list, right, and you engage in an otherwise lawful activity, if you engage in one of those sorts of activities or actions or gestures or behaviors within the zone, and you're named on the list, on the injunction, right, that's a violation of an injunction. Okay, so then what happens if you violate the injunction? It can lead to criminal punishment for those who are on the list. And as I'm going through, if you have any questions, just stop me. If you want to add anything, stop me as well. So where did this come from? I think for some people in the Western Addition, it may have felt like it came out of nowhere, and that the gang injunction was happening, and maybe you saw it in the newspaper, or you heard about it, but you weren't necessarily sure about how it got to be here. And so from a criminal justice perspective and a criminological perspective, there are a couple of different theories that inform the development of gang injunctions. First is broken windows theory. Right, so this is the theory that the idea that if you crack down on really small offenses really early, really quickly, and really harshly, that will decrease the likelihood that you'll have a concentration of felony level offenses, more aggressive offenses, more violent offenses in an area. Right, so if you crack down on the graffiti, if you crack down on loitering, then that's going to prevent the more serious offenses in the area. So that's broken windows theories. It was introduced in the late 80s, early 90s in New York, right? And the whole kind of NYPD cracking down on the offenses and communities in New York was fueled really by this kind of broken windows policing, also kind of tracking the statistics of criminal offenses in areas, in particular communities, right? And so some of you may have heard of CompStat, which is a statistical program that they use now in LA and other jurisdictions around the country. So the idea is figure out where the small crimes are happening, crack down on them to prevent, right? That will help police do their work and also help community members feel more safe, right? And now we know that there is it doesn't always work out that way, right? There's something left to be desired oftentimes with community policing, and also tied into concern for quality of life, right? So neighborhoods that have been disrupted by gang violence will have residents saying that they don't feel safe, right? That they don't feel like the police can protect them, they don't feel safe from their neighbors, right? And so they want an improvement in quality of life. And so all these things kind of coming together in the late 80s, throughout the 90s, and into the 21st century, right, helped to usher in the use of gang injunctions. In California, the state ruled that, kind of tied into this quality of life concern, is that the state ruled that the rights of people to live peacefully in their neighborhoods superseded the rights of those who were creating the public nuisance. Right? So it set up a kind of hierarchy of rights. right? And so then you see the gang injunctions really being about cleaning up communities, cleaning up areas. This is the language that will be used, right? Alexa, no. Right? Cleaning up communities, cleaning up areas, and not necessarily focused on deterring or helping those people who are identified as gang members move onto a different path, onto a different trajectory, right? So kind of broken windows theory, community policing, quality of life. I mean, these are kind of superficially what is driving, right? And theoretically what drives these injunctions. Now on the ground, you know that the experience is can be a little different, particularly from what we heard from a young man last time we met, but also what at a meeting about a year ago actually that I attended, that I heard from young men who were also there talking about their experience, right? And so one thing that the gang injunction does on the ground is that it increases the police power to stop and frisk you, right? Stop and frisk. So to see you on the street and ask you to stop, right? Pat you down, and if necessary, if they find something on you that they couldn't see, right, or otherwise had no reason to stop you, right, then to arrest you. And also just increases their power to arrest those people who they think are gang affiliated, right, even if they haven't had any right to do so before. So they haven't caught anyone in the commission of an illegal act, right? But they see them, they think or suspect that they're on the gang injunction list, so they can stop them. So it allows police, particularly local law enforcement, more power. So if a police officer sees a person within this safety zone, right, and they suspect that she or he, now all of the people on the gang injunction list in the Western Addition are young men, just a little bit over 50% are in the age range of 18 to 25, 90% are 18 to 30-year-olds, right? So we're looking at that early adulthood to late adulthood area, or late adulthood range. So can you be arrested for, this was a question that has come up and I think has been in the back of people's minds over the last years, whether or not you can be arrested for violating the injunction if you're not named on the injunction, right? And I think that this is a concern for people who might want to actually work with young people who are on the injunction. And the answer to that, right, is no. You can't be in violation, right, of the injunction unless you've been served. This is true for young people too, right? And in some jurisdictions, they develop alternate ways to serve people, right? So they would say, well, if I serve 7 people, I believe this is what the man from Oxnard said, if I serve 7 people in the gang, then that means that everybody's served. So I think a question is, in San Francisco, what does it mean to be served? Do you have to be personally served to the injunction? And it seems that the existence of the gang injunction also influences people's interactions with probation officers, right? And so just kind of word of mouth on the street and meetings, it seems that it kind of emboldens probation officers, gives them something to kind of hold over the heads of young men on the list, kind of harass them. And I think this is something that the CAT team has to kind of pay attention to, and anyone working with young men on the injunction should pay attention to what is happening with those interactions and how are criminal justice officials using things like the gang injunction to violate or push the boundaries, push the limits of their lawful interactions with people on the injunction. And we also had a question last time about a penalty. So what happens if I violate the injunction? All right, so again, the key distinction, the one that we're going to leave this room with, right, is that it's a civil injunction, right? And so you can have civil penalty, all right, which is a fine or up to 5 days in jail. So if you violate the order, right, if you're found to violate the order, you can either be asked to pay a fine or spend 5 days in jail, but you can also receive a criminal penalty. Right? You can also receive a criminal penalty. So you can be prosecuted by the DA, charged with a misdemeanor, and serve up to 6 months in county jail. And this is important because of two things. First, there's a lower legal standard, right, for civil, for civil, if you have received a civil penalty, right? So all you have to show, all the prosecutor has to show is that there is a preponderance of the evidence that you violated the order, right? And that's the key, preponderance of the evidence versus beyond a reasonable doubt that you violated. So that's a criminal distinction. So in some ways, it's easier to prove in a civil court that you haven't in fact violated the injunction. But most, from my read of the data so far, is that most of the prosecutions are prosecuted criminally.
But what they have is most of these men are on probation. Depends on what your probation and your parole is.
So you're saying getting picked up, or clearly getting arrested,
Yeah.
violation of your parole, but getting picked up for a violation of the gang injunction.
I think that might have an
It's
impact
also
because you're
a
still
violation.
coming in contact with the police officer, and they're going to push it,
Right.
to make sure that it's a violation.
All right. Okay.
I mean, I know that what they could do is, possible cite them on spot, cite them with a citation on spot, but again, it goes back to the thing to where you can be taken to the station and searched, and, to find out if you got something else, then they can hold you for that, so, and then, that's a problem because now you're arrested per se, and that's a violation, so now you're doing time on a violation just because you're on gang injunction and wasn't doing nothing.
Right. So another question that came up, do you have a right to an attorney? And this goes both ways. So it's no or yes depending on the situation. So if it's a civil contempt proceeding, like Eris was saying, if it's a citation and you have to go to civil court, there's no right to an attorney. You will have to hire your own attorney if you want an attorney in civil court, civil contempt proceeding. But if you're arrested for engaging in activity that is in violation of the gang injunction, right, and you're charged with a misdemeanor, then you can use the public defender's office. Right? Is that?
Yeah.
That sounds right. We also talked last time about the role of race and racism, and I think that this is a real critical touch point for people, and for good reason. So the gang injunction, the civil injunctions in California, and there are over 40 injunctions in the state, are for the most part, I haven't seen yet in my kind of review of the research and the writing, scholarly and mainstream press on this. I haven't seen a predominantly white community targeted by the gang injunction. So most of the communities that are targeted with gang injunctions are in fact Black and Latina communities in California. Now, the gang injunctions, all of the press around the gang injunction is about targeting a geographic area, targeting a turf, right? So the idea is that this kind of erases race, right? But in practice, right, these are Black communities. This is true in San Francisco. There are Black communities and Latino communities who are targeted for gang injunction. Now, one of the effects of this is that it encourages criminalization of people of color, increases the stigma of communities of color, kind of validates the idea in the public mind of people who don't live in the community that this is a bad place, this is a dangerous place, or it's not a safe place, right? It makes it even more difficult for those people who are actually named on the list to make that kind of transition, or make that positive change. And historically, if we think about other civil, if we think about other injunctions and laws that targeted black communities, we can draw this back to the period after the end of abolition of slavery, the period of Reconstruction, where we had laws that were designed to either implicitly or explicitly target black communities, right? So the PIG laws were laws created on the books in Reconstruction South that were designed to supply the convict system with leased labor and criminalize crimes that black people were most likely to commit, right? And because of the economic circumstances, stealing a hog was a crime that black people at that time were likely to commit, right? So the crime for stealing a hog was getting sold into the convict lease system, right? And then you had the black codes, which were slightly different, that they were crimes because you were black, right? So when, for example, unemployment after the first year came around, you were unemployed and you were black, right? Then that was a crime, and you were likely to be sold into the convict lease system. So it's not as if that there's not a history of laws targeting, criminalizing black communities, and I think that a lot of the community opposition to these laws emerges from that history. So what are some reasons that those people who are organizing against the injunctions, okay, so what are some of those reasons? First of all, it's incredibly hard to get off the list, and we'll talk about the opt-out process in a second. It is, the criminal justice system and the court system is a vast bureaucracy. It's difficult to manage for a lot of people, including young people. And again, after I said about how many of the young men on the list are in early adulthood. Police mistakes. Not everyone who is named on the injunction list is actually a gang member. There have been 2 people in San Francisco who were found not to be gang members. Too much police discretion. It increases the ability, like I said, of police to interact with young men on the street, and not enough police accountability. A report from the Justice Policy Institute found that gang injunctions only displace criminal activity, that they don't necessarily decrease violence. There's only some tentative, mixed evidence about whether or not it actually is responsible for decreased violent crime in communities. There's serious concern about the violation of civil liberties, and I think that's why the ACLU was involved early on developing the opt-out process. Violation of due process rights, right, and the right to freely associate with other citizens. Displacement and disruption. I know that people see the gang injunction as tied into a history of urban renewal in the city that is ongoing, and also the gang injunction as a tool to really disrupt families. And I think that's one of the things that came up during our last meeting. Right, a young man saying, "Well, I can't even associate. I can't walk down the street with my cousin, or I see my niece or nephew. I can't hang out with them." So this idea that it's another tool to kind of split up families is serious concern. So what have other communities done? In Oxnard, California, there was a really vigorous, active campaign against the injunctions. They still have gang injunctions, but they did kind of organize the community, and they're still organizing the community to challenge it. And their campaign was focused on offering alternatives to the really suppressive tactics that accompany the enforcement of the gang injunction. So looking at prevention and intervention. They did letter writing campaigns in local paper. They fundraised for legal challenges, and I think this is an important thing for the CAT team to consider, fundraising specifically for legal representation. So if someone needs to hire a private attorney, whether they're in a civil or a criminal proceeding. Street marches and activities to raise public awareness. This is something that the group has already engaged in, public events to raise awareness. In San Francisco, I think that the CAT team itself is one of the efforts to mobilize around the gang injunction, to build community. I know that there are efforts to kind of bridge the divide, or the alleged divide, the real divide, that exists between the black and brown community, so working with people in the mission who are also organizing around the gang injunction. And tomorrow there's an anti-gang injunction meeting. Is that right?
Yeah.
The name of it on July 9th tomorrow from 3 to 5. And I'm sure you're gonna be there.
Yeah.
It's on tape. All right, so gang injunctions in California and San Francisco. So there are over 40 gang injunctions, like I said. So the gang injunctions originally started in a case, I believe in Santa Ana, where the city attorney wanted to decrease the number of alleged gang members who were congregating around a bar. Right, so the first injunction was that you couldn't congregate around this bar. Right, and then the next one, the next case was that you couldn't congregate in this residence. Right, so the people were coming in and out of this residence. And then in a major case, it shifted from one physical location to an entire geographical area. Right, and territorial gangs, right, are sued as corporations, even if they're not necessarily organized. We see as unorganized incorporations, right? So the shift in the public policy aspect of this was to target those gangs or alleged gang members who are claiming turf, right? Who are claiming parts of the city, and to make City Attorney Dennis Herrera is quoted in the paper as saying he basically wants to take away the storefront, right, of the local gangs, what their storefronts would be. So take away their turf. So in San Francisco, question of how this happened, how it got here. This all started about the year, actually 2006, in San Francisco in general. So probably actually started in 2005 or a little earlier, getting everything in order. But the process went like this for the Western Addition and Hunters Point Bayview and the Mission. So the city attorney provided documentation to prove that a gang in a particular area was a public nuisance. Right? This was the result of a police and city district attorney conducting months-long investigation to identify individuals and catalog unlawful and antisocial acts that seemed gang-related. So it was increased surveillance for a period of time, documentation, taking pictures, creating files, and these were the files that were then presented as evidence, right, in the city attorney's brief. Names are also taken from gang databases, which have been around for over a decade now, and police declarations. Right, so then the city attorney, once he compiled all this evidence, went to court requesting that these named individuals be enjoined, be prohibited from a set of actions in this area, right, and to declare the gang a public nuisance. Right, so that happened about a year ago. Right? That declaration was made about the gangs in Western Addition. Then the city attorney said that this is a safety zone, named the area surrounding Plaza East, Pitts Plaza, and King Garvey safety zone. All right, saying that alleged gang members who were named in the injunction are prohibited from engaging in activities here. So there's two things to remember, that it's people-placed, so you have to be on the list, right? And it's also place-based, right? So the people who are on their list, and there are places in which their actions are restricted. During the last meeting, there was a conversation about, well, who is a gang member? What does it mean to be a gang member? And you can read this and ask yourself whether or not you're a gang member. Don't answer on tape. Right, but this is a basic legal definition. Right, so the people who are named on the gang injunction are people who fit, given the evidence that was provided to the court, this definition of a gang member. So you participate in acts with an ongoing organization, association, group of 3 or more persons. So that came up a lot during the last meeting. You can't walk with 3 or more people, right? Because that activity is restricted. You can't associate with a gang. formally or informally. One of its primary activities being being a public nuisance, right? And then these signs and symbols, that's why the clothing is restricted, right? And then collectively engaging with other people, that's why the association is restricted. Right? And again, this kind of lack of clarity about, well, what does associating or engaging mean, right? And according to this, it has to be more to be declared a gang member than just kind of nominal, passive, inactive, or purely technical. So you have to be engaged. There have been evidence presented that you were actively engaged in alleged gang activity. So after that happened, the judge took up to 90 days. I'm not sure how long the judge took to decide whether or not to grant an injunction. There was a preliminary, in some areas there's a preliminary injunction that quickly moved to temporary injunctions. I believe there are a couple of places in the city that are still have preliminary injunctions. Do you know if that's?
The last one was the Mission, and I'm not sure if they actually got an injunction, but they were in the temporary stage.
Temporary stage, yeah. And the question of how long this is going to last, permanent injunctions last forever. Right, so this injunction would be in place forever, right? So people who are named on this list cannot come back to these areas and engage in the sorts of activities that are laid out in the injunction for the rest of their lives. Right, so anecdotal evidence, think of a worst case scenario. A community member from Oxnard said that he knew of a guy who came back to LA after 15 years, right, to visit his grandmother, is found in the area, right, is found violating a gang injunction and is arrested and is incarcerated. That's kind of a worst case.
Lost his job and everything.
Yeah, lost his job, yeah. So kind of just really quickly dismantled all the progress that he made over the last 15, I'm not sure if it was 15 years or not, but over an extended period of time.
So just because he was in the area?
Because, so you have to be in the area, and being in the area opens you up to being evaluated by a police officer. So a police officer sees you, identifies you as a gang member, sees you doing one of the activities that is restricted in the gang injunction, right? Then that's cause for him or her to stop and frisk you or arrest you if you're engaging in activity that's in violation of the injunction.
So he was caught doing something that was...
Right, and so we don't know.
You don't know?
I'm not, because I don't know. So he could have been, so this is the thing, that he could have, so a violation of the injunction is associated with gang members. So he could have been just talking with people and that would have him in violation of the gang injunction. Right?
I just
Or
want
on
to be
the other
clear,
extreme.
wasn't that he was just in the area at his grandmother's
So
house.
if he's walking by himself, he's not in violation of the gang injunction. Is that your understanding of it?
Yeah, but if you shake hands
You shake hands in a certain way. So
in a
he's
certain
saying,
way,
well, yeah.
or if somebody else is on the gang injunction, you just happen to walk by them, you shake their hand, and the police see it, it's up to their discretion of what you're doing. So he could have been back 15 years and going through the hood, shaking hands on his way in or on his way out, and immediate violation. You cannot be associated with no other gang member that's on the list at no time. There's in Plaza East there, I think there's I think it's either a father and son on the gang injunction or whatever, but they cannot even walk out the house at the same time. One has to walk out the house, and then another one has to walk out the house after that. So it's real serious.
But they can live in the same house?
Yeah, they can live in the same house.
Because it's a public space. Also, the question came up about whether or not people, when they were initially served or when they was talking about the preliminary injunction, whether or not people should go to court. And so the idea is that people are served, right? So they'll arrive in court, come to court, and if they have a challenge to being on the gang injunction, that they would, quote unquote, show cause for why their name should not be included on the gang injunction. Now, I know that there were, in the Western Addition, that this didn't happen for the most part, right? That young people and men on the list did not show up in court. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's right. And typically, in other areas, going through the reading, defendants did not show up in court for a number of reasons. So,
Is that a violation if you don't show up in court?
no, if you don't show up in court, it's a civil proceeding. You don't show up because it's a civil proceeding naming an injunction against you. So I don't believe it's a violation.
No, what you had opportunity to state your case, and, the judge will listen to your case and might not have put you on the injunction, but it was unclear from everybody on the gang injunction that was served on, do I go to court or don't I go to court? Some agencies told them that they were going to go to court on their behalf. So they told them to stay back at home and they'll go to court for them. But that didn't work. Can't nobody go to court for you, But being unclear, even when they were served by the police department, it was said that don't show up for court, don't fight it. So it was really unclear on what the gang injunction was and all this stuff. So nobody really knew if they were supposed to go to court or not, because it was civil. Either criminal, you got to go to court.
Yeah.
But nobody knew about a civil injunction. All they did was come to your house with a box full of papers, pictures and everything, and say, here, you've been served, you're on the gang injunction list. And you were supposed to find out from there what that meant.
That sounds like a Gestapo law. I thought law was based upon facts and evidence. And most of this stuff is based upon assumptions which go back to the police and Walker's too. So, to me, that's an illegal law. And that's why I call it a factual law. Because I looked it up in the Webster Dictionary. And nowhere in there that it meant that gangs were associated with criminality. It said gangs was getting together because of the association to protect the neighborhood and each other. That was in Webster Dictionary. So it's a fascist law, and it should be struck. It should be protested in some kind of way, where the legal service, ACLU or somebody, should bring that out. Law is not based on assumptions.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So how do police, because I was trying to get this from the outside too, how do police identify, do they, are they taught to memorize people on the list by faith, how they look? How do they know that that person is on the gang injunction? Is it just because they're in the neighborhood and they know them by name by now? Or do they have to study a certain list based on a picture of them or something?
I mean, I have an idea, but I think I'll let the
Well, what
experts
you
speak to it.
It's how do they know?
Well, they have the gang task force that put you on the list, first of all. They got pictures and stuff from different raids in your houses and things. They got pictures and stuff of hanging out and everything. And then they got your criminal record. So it was like last time we had a meeting here, one of the young men that was on the list said that he was only put on the gang injunction list because he got caught doing something in the area. But he got caught by himself. And he get caught with no members. So it's unclear on that too. But what they do is, once you stand outside for a while, everybody knows who you are. The cops know who you are. And they study, they understand who on the list, who's not on the list, who they want to get on the list, they know it all.
They provided most of the projects with a list, like they brought one to King Garvey and gave us the 7 names.
And I actually seen a meeting that I had at King Garvey. We seen a box sitting on the floor that said Chopper City gang injunction, and that was at King Garvey. And the box was sitting by the security company that runs King Garvey. So it's information being told. And a meeting prior to that, I had a meeting with the security company at King Garvey, and they have a list of who's on the gang injunction and who's not on the gang injunction. So it's meetings like this, in which, you know, of course, we're not invited to, you know, where they project and see everything that's going on, you know, I'm sure in their morning briefings, you know, and things like that. So, but most of these, I know in the King Garvey area, most of the participants are not around anymore. Some are, but some aren't. You know, then in Plaza East, yeah, the same thing. A lot of participants has, you know, kind of moved away a little bit, but they definitely know us. You know, you have just plain black. You have what you have is you have black and white officers. You know, they were dressed in their black and white or blue and white uniforms, but they switch up to narcotic officers also. So, you know, the narcotics officers, then they become gang task force. So, you know, it's all a cycle. So they know what's going on. You had another thing?
No, that sounds right to me.
About time somebody got a camera, thought about it. Shit. Oh, we got a camera.
Hella funny, dude. Get a donut for the camera, man. I got 2.0, man.
Heard what he said? Heard what he just said? Gang invalidation. That's what I was just telling you when I left the gang injunction meeting. That's exactly it.
Hanging out here like this. Hey, he said he got 1.2 megapixels? Soon. That's a Metro. 3.0.
On your phone? That's not right. I only got 1.3. Sorry, I got all I need.
You spent all that money on that car. How you guys doing today? All right.
Wonderful.
Take care.
I'm gonna go ahead and start this. Dante, what you gonna do, man? Shake it. All right? Yeah, but we ain't gotta even go through this tonight. I appreciate that. Well, no, just put down so you know how to do it. All right?
What up? Can't put nobody at video.
This is something, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, where you at?
Sound like you're in the gate on the other side. Hey, Shawnee, check. Could you check on them for me? Make sure they cool.
Hey, no. Take your ass in the gate. No.
About that gang injunction?
Yeah, what's wrong, David? Don't want to get caught up in that.
They're having a meeting at the police department right now in regard to a gang injunction.
No, don't tell them. You only tell them so many times.
Yeah.
I would want to do it too, man.
Oh, baby.
I would only want to do it so many times. Right? Is that right there is
Like we got a relationship.
the coldest thing going right now. Yeah. Because it works against you and it works for you.
Hey, if you guys don't live in there, you can't be in there.
We are living here.
They don't live here. Not
You guys
everybody
can't
lives
be
here.
in there.
Who don't live here?
Hey, bro.
Yeah, man, it's the guy who kick us out when we get killed.
Then you ask for an ID.
Huh? Carolina.
You just asked for an ID. That's all.
I know you. I know him.
All right then, so don't try to say we don't.
Everybody can't say
Run him down there.
Jerk, man, about the situation. You shush, man.
Shush.
For real, dog.
Feel me?
Shush.
He trying to tell us to leave talking this gang injunction shit,
You
man.
know,
We
all I can do is
stay
tell
here,
you.
man.
All I can do is tell
Everybody.
you so many times, so I don't mind. It's up to you.
If you're not on it, you don't have to concern yourself with it.
If it don't apply, we gonna let it fly.
But they're having a gang injunction meeting right around the corner right now.
Yeah, it's only gonna go so much. What's up, man? How you doing? All right. Cool with it?
He don't speak to strangers.
I know.
They always taught that when they was little.
Right. I appreciate that camera too, man. Keep that on, because that's a hell of a
Years. It's been going on for years.
You ain't heard?
Same security force that you work for. I got them years. Years of working here.
That came in y'all mental log when y'all got hired. Watch out for that camera.
Right over here?
Channel 1, baby.
Okay, I'm just getting shit my neck.
Hey.
I did his no good ass. All of them no good.
Look at my buddy Big Red. He can't stand me.
Me neither. He say I always cuss him out.
I don't have a clue. They come out of your house.
Yeah, that's all running out here. They ain't your house.
They come out of your house.
They're in your house, Sammy.
I guess they're done. What do you think you should? Tammy should talk to them before they leave. Was Anthony in there?
I don't know who in there. That's why we just called you.
Wow.
That's private property. That's private property. That's private property. That's private property. You don't got to give them nothing, man. Man, I know my rights have been here for too long.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Big to do out of nothing. What you want?
I was never done shit. Sergeant?
First name.
Tripping like fuck. They about to start harassing him every day now. Hey, why the feds following us and shit, man? Huh? They following us. I know what this mean now. You know, Los told me all about this, baby. Come inside these gates, you can't touch me, dog. It's private property.
That's it.
You're doing all that touching stuff.
It doesn't have to be such a big deal, right? You're standing in an area where you're not supposed to
I'm gonna
blow
break
around
it
with
down
someone
to
and talk to you sometimes. It's pretty simple.
Let me break it down to you, Sal.
Is that what you mean?
You could have
Yeah,
walked in
listen
here,
to
right?
Andre, he knows.
Hey, y'all can
You could have walked in here, right? Carlos told me yesterday. He can't come in here, blood. It's private property, right? Niggas better know y'all rights. It's private property. That's why I told you could have walked through the gate, man. You do not got to give him your name, nothing, cousin.
Not the normal San Francisco police officer.
He violated your rights. What is the point you want his name for?
The normal officer should follow.
Man, tell him we coming out with a DVD talking about cops going wild. Shit like that, they hopping out for people's names. This boy ain't on nothing. His record cleaner than everything out here.
Andre, why do you gotta start? Why do you gotta make something out of nothing, Andre?
You see that, man? Now he want to say my name. That's what he gonna be doing to you when he see you. How you doing, Marcel? For nothing though. He tripping, Phil. Rose told me yesterday, cousin. He cannot come in here and touch you. This is private property. Los broke it down to me yesterday, cousin. You can't come in here with all that, nigga. Private property like fuck, cousin. I'm tripping like fuck, nigga. Even this man know it too right here, huh? Private property. You can't come in here and say, how they gonna ask you your name? Pull up right here, what's your name? You can't do none of that shit. Come on, my nigga.
Son, a lot of shit.
Man, you about to start fucking with you, man. You tripping like fuck, nigga. Don't let them niggas intimidate you or nothing. You can't take you, you can't do nothing to you, nigga. Why you think I'm talking this shit to him? No. He can't do that to you, cousin. How do you go pull up and say, what's your name? Or I'm gonna hop out. What type of shit is that? That's police going wild shit. That's why we coming out with a movie. Police going wild.
Police wives going wild. Fuck the bullshit.
Police wives going wild, man. I hope you ain't married, man.
Man, like they got jurisdiction to follow us, cousin.
All day. But they cannot follow us in here, though, cousin.
Who said that? They was just saying, follow us out of town before, cousin. Y'all follow y'all.
Alright. Is that D?
Want to get in with them?
You can find a reason. I guess I would have to.
Yeah, that's right. You're arrested, man. Got to be shoving on you. Yeah, that's right. If you're a guy, you ain't got no business shoving on you. Come here. That's right. That's right. You're already arrested. You ain't got no business shoving on you.
Hey, your grandma know?
For my grandma?
Is she at home?
Here, get over here.
Hey, is she at home?
I don't know. She probably is.
What happened?
Man, we missed that.
I don't know. Yeah, I heard it.
Peter, what, you see the
It must be on the other side.
What the fuck going on over here?
I don't even know.
Okay. Did you find a gun on here? The man is right here talking to us. The girl is over there. Raymond, no, he's standing right here. Do that. Is it open? We're doing shit. I'm sure.
Can you tell me that?
Supposedly chased them and supposed to rob somebody. All of them.
Right now he's just the man. You can just stand on the sidewalk. Does he live with you or is he live? Yeah. Okay, let me get your information.
Over there.
Just relax. You know what? Right now, ma'am, if I could just get you to talk to me. So, okay, what's your last name?
And call Sarah.
You live, what's your address?
1624. No, let me go get it.
Is there an apartment number?
Yes. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Okay, can I get your date of birth, ma'am?
I know. Well, why you Here, this for the that's for her?
So we're going to see what
Watch this guy.
right now.
Hey, I guess we got somebody.
Eddie,
Ma'am, can I just get you a cell? Thank you.
are you detaining somebody?
Yeah. You know where you need something.
Number 203, can I have the upper number?
Wait, I didn't know. He's
Somebody got robbed.
The man that was right here.
Some man got robbed down the street, and he said a group of, with, you know, a group of black boys.
Let me ask you a question. Where'd you get that camera at?
Bought it.
You bought it? I mean, it's like what store?
You can go get it at any store. Best Buy, Circuit City.
How much you pay for it?
A little less than 3,000.
How much? 2,000?
A little less than 3,000.
3,000. I gotta get one for my kids. That's at my price range.
It's the one to get.
Yeah, looks good.
That's the same one you had at first?
No, that's a high def. It's upstairs.
Okay. What happened, man?
I don't know. They were chasing some guys, a group of guys, and they supposedly either robbed somebody or possibly, you know. I don't think they really know just yet.
No, he don't have nothing there. So they're ready because they're just holding him now. They were just holding him. Some man got robbed down the street.
Right here.
Hello.
Yeah.
He became because what happened.
Now they're gonna tie them all into somehow the gang injunction. Time in. Oh, you can get started.
Not.
Yeah, I guess for now.
No, he's not the type to rob nobody. I'm just waiting for them. No, just can't say that. They used to be there.
They were at 7 David.
Oh, yeah, they got one.
They come straight to the permit. They don't matter. These niggas could be living in some big ass houses up in the hills. They come straight to the project.
Don't make sense. I just told that boy go and get his clothes, and he got his clothes together and stuff. And Michelle said he wasn't even outside.
They don't respond like this when it's a gun.
They said the gun was used in the robbery, but the person don't want to come down.
Coming down here and say nothing.
people that weren't robbed or
I just came outside the house.
Michelle told us, because Michelle wouldn't even believe me that they had.
That's just
Gigi.
Can't wear black and go to Black and
What y'all doing?
the blue suit.
I'm going to the hospital for my office, and I'm going to I'm gonna wear my pig.
Are the handcuffs tight?
Wait, who just sits in the
How do handcuffs fit? Anybody know over here?
Oh, Brenda.
Well, you don't want them though. Who they here?
My brother. All right, thanks. All right. How you doing? All right, how you doing?